Good morning, everybody, and happy Labor Day. Welcome back to another episode of Mary's Real Estate Magic, the secrets to making your best real estate decisions. And today's topic, I'm going to talk about what it costs to close a transaction. And I'm going to cover closing costs for a seller. So if you have comments, questions, ideas about future episodes, please be sure to put those in the comment box. I won't see them while I'm recording, but I will definitely pick those up and respond to you afterwards. So I want to go over a closing cost worksheet that I have, and I'm going to be looking at this from a seller's perspective. Next week I will cover closing costs for a buyer. So that'll be next week's episode, but today I'm going to talk about closing costs for a seller. And let me pull that up so I can show it to you. Here we go. Full screen so we can see it. It's kind of small, but we'll do the best we can here. Okay, so this is just a list of the various closing costs. The biggest chunk of this is going to be the broker's commission. And a broker's commission you pay to your listing agent, and the listing agent then shares that with the cooperating agent, from if there is one. So the commission covers all the marketing expenses. You don't pay for any of that typically. And it's typically 6% of selling price, although commissions are negotiable. The second piece is title insurance. As a seller, you have to prove to a buyer that you own the property and that you have the right to sell it. So we go through a title company and they provide clear title. Any liens, if you have a loan, mortgage, whatever, that all has to be taken care of, and the title company is the one responsible for taking care of that. And that typically runs, I'm going to say, about $2,500, give or take. Depends on the size of the transaction. If you own a building or a single-family home, you also have to provide a survey showing the lot lines and that you're not encroaching on somebody else's property, or vice versa, that they're not encroaching on your property. It's part of providing clear title. And a survey runs about $500. Sometimes if you have an old survey, they will update it, but save a few bucks, but you don't save much. In Illinois, we use attorneys to close transactions, and you'll need to consult with your attorney, but it's typically around $500 to $1,000, or if you're using an attorney with a large law firm, sometimes they'll charge you an hourly rate, but you'll want to discuss their fees with them. In the city of Chicago, when we close transactions, there are a couple of certifications that you have to provide. Not on a condo, but on a multifamily building, a 2 to 4 unit property. You'll have to prove that the building is, in fact, the city recognizes it as 2 to 4 units, whatever you're representing to the buyer. So that certification comes from the city. Typically the attorney will order that, and it's $150. And the other thing the city of Chicago wants is their water bill paid. They changed this probably 20, 25 years ago, that as part of closing, you have to prove that you've paid your water bill. So you have to come to closing with a paid water certification. And again, that's something that typically the attorney orders, and it's about $200. Transfer stamps are essentially a sales tax that the state and county levies. The buyer also has transfer stamps that they pay on their end from the city. To a seller, the transfer stamps are $4.50 per $1,000 of selling price. So on a $500,000 transaction, for example, the way that you do the math is you take off the zeros because the thousands rather, because it's $1,000 of selling price. So you'd multiply 500 times the $4.50, and it comes out to $2,250. Again, document recording fees, something that the title company will do. They'll record, they'll release your current mortgage. They'll put the new buyer's mortgage against it, but that's a buyer expense actually, and that's runs around $250, $500. If you're providing the buyer with a home warranty, which I strongly encourage that sellers do, the ranges, they've gone up a little bit since I did this worksheet. They started about $700, depending on how many units. On a single family home, or a condo, it's about $700. On a 2-flat, it's more. A 3-flat, it's yet more again, because they're paying for more appliances, etc. But it can run about $2,000, $2,500 max on a 4-unit building. Then finally, this isn't exactly a cost. It's more like prepaying a bill, the property tax proration. And roughly, I tell sellers to just figure that you're going to pay about a year's of your property's taxes and add 10% to that. So in Cook County, property taxes are paid a year in arrears. So like income tax, if you want to think of it that way. So right now it's 2020, and we just finished paying the 2019 property taxes. But you've owned the property in 2020. So you will owe the tax bill for 2020. However, the tax bill won't come out until 2021. We don't know what that bill will be for another year. So the way attorneys facilitate that is you basically pay a little premium, assuming that property taxes are going to go up. Because how often do property taxes go down? Like never. So I tell sellers to just figure you're going to be paying a year's worth of property taxes and tack on an additional 10% on top of that. So for easy figuring, if your annual property taxes are $10,000, you tack on 10%, that's another $1,000. Figure your tax proration is going to be about $11,000. It's probably a little high, but it'll give you a ballpark number. It won't be more than that for sure. Probably not more than that. But so for instance, here we are, it's September. If you were to sell your property today, you probably wouldn't close until the middle of October. So you basically owe property taxes for 10.5 months of 2020. And that would be your tax proration. So that's why I say it doesn't seem to really matter much when you put your property on the market. It always seems to work out to be almost a full year's worth of property taxes. And then the rest of this checklist are just other required documents. These aren't actual costs, just documents that you'll need to provide to a buyer. So a rule of thumb, just for a quick figuring, the way when I sit down with a seller and we talk about closing costs and they ask me what are my closing costs going to be, if you want to just do a quick kind of back of the napkin number, my rule of thumb is to figure somewhere between around 9% of the selling price. So for instance, if you're selling your property for $500,000, then 9% of that, your closing costs would be about $45,000. And that would include the broker's commission as well. So I hope that's helpful. And if you have any questions about that, as I said, please be sure to put them in the comment box. Next week, I will be going over what closing costs are for for a buyer. And that's my tip for today. So I hope you have a restful day, a rest of the day, and a good week. And I'll look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye for now.